from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday, the last day of the month of February 28th, 2022. We've got a packed show. I hope you had a better weekend than the Ukrainian folks that are being bombarded by Russian aggression. So we're going to be talking about that today. Specifically, this conflict has some cyber capabilities and impact, but it also has a lot of human impact as well. So keep that in mind while we talk about today's show. The fact is that there are a bunch of very, very innocent people that are paying a price that they didn't sign up for and weren't expecting, especially in today's day of age, where we thought this couldn't happen, only to realize that history tends to repeat itself, and we tend to sit there awe-shocked that it actually did take place. Today's show is packed. We're going to be talking about a US-UK warning on the Iranian cyber activities. We'll be taking a deep dive into the Russia-Ukraine cyber conflict, because this battle is not only taking place in the battlefield with weapons and indiscriminate bombings and so forth. It's also taking place in the cyber warfare, and there's collateral damage and everything, but what's the collateral damage here in the cyber warfare? How could that impact us as practitioners? How could that impact the countries around the Ukraine that are a critical part of our supply chain as well? So with that being said, today's show is brought to you by our friends over at KnowBe4. Please make sure to check them out and see more about them in the show notes. Let's get to some shout outs this morning. Mr. McQuiggan, good morning to you and coffee cup cheers. Scott, good morning and praying for the Ukraine. We all are. Good morning, Mrs. Warstall, and ready for the week. Anthony, good morning to you. Eddie, good morning. David, good morning. Brandy, good morning, and stand with the Ukraine indeed. Taylor, good morning, everyone. Top of the morning to you as well. Matt, good morning. Good morning to Medine, and this is Andrew. So good morning, Andrew. Pure disclosure before I drink my cup of coffee, I lived in the Ukraine a decade ago. 10 years ago, I actually worked and lived in Kiev, and have just terrific memories of my time in the Ukraine. So this conflict hits a little bit closer to home than what I would have than many people, simply because I still have a lot of friends and colleagues there, and fond memories of a beautiful country with beautiful people. So with that being said, let's grab our cup of coffee and get into today's show. My usual double espresso. Whatever you're drinking this morning, make it yours. Enjoy it. It's Monday morning. We all need our caffeine boost. Coffee cup cheers. All right, folks. CyberHubPodcast.com. You can find all of our latest content there. We'll start off with a non-Ukraine Russia story where the US and UK are warning of Iranian cyber attacks on government and commercial networks. So Iran's state-sponsored threat actor Muddy Water has been running against both public and private sector organizations worldwide. This has been at least since 2017. They've also been tracked as Static Kitten. The APT actor is believed to be a subordinate element within the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence and Security. The adversary is supplying the Iranian government with both stolen data and access to compromised networks, according to CISA, FBI, the U.S. Cyber Command National Mission Force, the NSA, and the UK National Cybersecurity Center in a joint advisory. They've been observed conducting cyber espionage operations against organizations in multiple sectors, including government, defense, telecom, oil, and natural gas across all of the world's continents: Asia, Africa, Europe, and North America. For initial access to victims' environments, the APT employs a spear phishing zip archives containing macro-enabled Excel files or PDF documents to the victim. It exploits known vulnerabilities, employs open source tools. According to the joint advisory, once in, the adversary collects sensitive data, deploys ransomware, while also maintaining persistence on the compromised networks. In some attacks, the DLL sideloading is employed to load malware into the process of a legitimate program. In recent attacks, the threat actor was observed employing variants of malware families like Canopy, Mori, PowerGroup, Power Stats, and Small SIF for backdoor access, payload deployment, data theft, and persistence. U.S. Cyber Command uploaded to VirusTotal several files associated with the Muddy Water operation. The newly published advisory provides technical details of it and can be viewed in any one of the links here in the article and in the show notes. Go and check those out. Definitely something significant. Now we'll move to the story that's been occupying headlines all throughout the week since almost the Wednesday of last week. Russia and Ukraine are at war, not because the Ukraine wanted it. Vladimir Putin has decided to invade the Ukraine. He's been staging forces for a month. Nearly 200,000 Russian soldiers are on the border this morning and last night. Belarus, where peace talks are being held at the moment, ceasefire talks, we shall say, has also joined the fighting and is considering hosting nuclear weapons by Russia in the country. So a lot going on geopolitically there. After the major assault in the physical world, the battle is also taking place in cyberspace. Just before Russia launched its invasion of the Ukraine 4 days ago, Ukrainian government websites were disrupted by DDoS attacks. There's also been a new destructive malware on hundreds of devices in the country, the Hermetic Wiper, and it's been described by experts as a wiper malware disguised as a ransomware. The attack wave came just weeks after Ukrainian government websites were also disrupted as part of a campaign that involved WhisperGate, a completely different wiper malware that was also disguised as ransomware. Due to the timing of the attacks, the main suspects are Russian state-sponsored threat actors. Russian actors have been accused of targeting Ukraine over the past decade, including in several significant disruptions to their critical infrastructure. However, the latest DDoS attack against Ukrainian government websites were launched allegedly by patriotic Russian hackers, including some who work for a respectable Russian cybersecurity companies, saying that if people found out what we did, that we would lose our jobs. The Conti Ransomware gang, which we'll get to here in just a moment, has also decided to side with the Russians. And you can kind of start to see the separation of who is really Russian state-sponsored, who's really cybercrime. You know, a lot of the stuff that we thought before are starting to really take shape. So a lot is going on. A threat actor previously tied to Belarus and possibly Russia has also been spotted with an email attack campaign. The leader of Belarus, who's been there for quite some time, and recently didn't really win an election. In fact, many would argue he lost it, but he maintained power through force after that one. So a lot going on there. Let's talk a little bit about Conti Ransomware's internal chats siding with Russia. So Ukrainian security researchers have leaked over 60,000 internal messages belonging to the Conti Ransomware operation after the gang sided with Russia over its invasion of the Ukraine. Intel CEO Vitaly Kremitz, who's been tracking the Conti TrickBot operations for the last several years, confirmed that the leaked messages were valid, taken from a log server for the Jabber communication used for the ransomware gang. Kremitz told Bleeping Computer that the data was leaked by a researcher who had access to the eJabber database backend for Conti's XMPP chat server. This was also confirmed by Hold Security. In total, there are 393 leaked JSON files containing a total of 60,694 messages since January of last year through today. Conti launched their operation in July of 2020. While it contains a big chunks of the internal conversation, it's not all of them. The conversation contains a lot of various information. However, there's some stuff in there that definitely talks about the operation going down. There've also been conversations about the Diavol ransomware operations and much more there. Earlier this week, the Conti Ransomware operation published a blog post announcing their full support for the Russian government attack on the Ukraine. They also warned if anyone organized a cyber attack against Russia, the Conti gang would strike back at critical infrastructure. After Ukrainian Conti affiliates grew upset with siding with Russia, the Conti replaced their messages with another one, stating they do not ally with any government and that they condemn the ongoing war. Russia and Ukraine, from a people perspective, are very, very, very similar, very, very close to each other, folks. something there to keep in mind. I will say this. The story that Putin has been telling the Russian folks is that the Ukraine is aligned with neo-Nazis. I've heard that story before. And that we need to rid Ukraine of all these neo-Nazis. He's really built a propaganda story within Russia. So when you see Russians take this type of activity, they've pretty much been only consuming the Russian media narrative of why. And over the weekend, I was watching and speaking to several folks over in the Ukraine on the ground. Many of the Russian soldiers captured did not know they were going for an operation, but thought they were on an exercise and a peacekeeping mission on the border with the Ukraine to stop the neo-Nazis from invading Russia. This narrative has been building for quite some time. Again, Ukraine has a Jewish president who's the grandson of a Holocaust survivor. To say anything that they are aligned with neo-Nazis would be a stretch of the imagination at best. Ukraine has recruited an IT army to hack Russian entities. They've listed 31 targets for that. There's a Telegram group, by the way, Russian government agencies, IP addresses. Over the weekend, many Russian government websites went down. Many banks in Russia were taken offline due to massive cyber attacks. The Ukrainian IT army is in full force, which leads to kind of the idea of Wired talking about the uncharted territory, since this is really a group of individuals from all over the world who've taken up cyber arms in order to help the Ukraine and really create a level of even playing field in cyber war space. And that's the one place where it's not a David versus Goliath type of fight. In all actuality, the physical fight, the war itself, is a David versus Goliath. The fact that the Ukrainians are fighting back and this strong for this long has surprised many experts in the traditional battlefield perspective. However, in cyber, they've done an unbelievable job of evening the playing field. Over the weekend, the Russian Ministry of Defense, Russian Ministry of Interior, Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and many others' websites were all taken offline. Additionally, the Kremlin's main website was taken offline in an unprecedented style of cyber attack that was done on those websites. Also on Saturday, Russians' main state-owned banks were also taken offline, and again, another unprecedented cyber attack. There's been no attribution to those, whether that's the Ukrainian IT army that we talk about here, or whether that was one of the nation states supporting the supporting the Ukrainian people by launching cyber attacks against the Russian entities, which leads to the fact that in a lot of the Ukraine, internet is bad. Internet has been stopped. In fact, one of the Russian strategies is to create and essentially choke the main cities within the Ukraine, Kiev, Kharkiv, and many others. And they want to do that in order to starve those cities and then get the civilians to come out and overthrow the government. That's really what he's trying to accomplish. Well, Elon Musk to the rescue. The Ukrainian Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Digital Transformation, Mikhailo Fedorov, requested help from SpaceX and Tesla billionaire Elon Musk, saying Starlink service, many places in the Ukraine do not have internet. So Elon Musk jumped to the rescue and said Starlink service is now active in the Ukraine. One person in Twitter summed it up pretty nicely. The people of the Ukraine now have access to the fastest, most robust satellite internet system ever created. This makes it impossible for Russia to disable the Ukrainian internet access fully without cyber attack and foreign data centers in order to do that. More recently, Russia has tried to disrupt Ukrainians' internet. They've also tried to attack their critical infrastructure in cities like Kiev, Kharkiv, and Mariupol, as well as Odessa and several others. So there is definitely a big effort there as well, and good job by Elon Musk. Folks, that's it for our practitioner brief here today. We'll be back tomorrow with a lot more on what's going on in the world of security and so much more. Until then, have a great rest of your day. pray and stand with the people of the Ukraine. Many websites are out there donating. The Ukrainian Red Cross is a great one to donate to. There's a bunch of websites. There's a bunch of organizations on the border with Poland. There's a bunch of Jewish organizations out there that are also doing some unbelievable work within the Ukraine in terms of getting formula, diapers, and food. In many places, they've now stopped delivering food to supermarkets. They've stopped providing the essentials that some of these Ukrainian people need. So if you're able to donate, if you want to support the Ukrainian people, not just with prayers, go find the Red Cross. Is a great, reputable place to donate to right now. They are helping people get out of there, and they're taking over 7 million Ukrainian refugees are now making their way either to Poland, Romania, Moldova, and other places hitting Western Ukraine, including the city of Lviv that has not yet been attacked. But it seems to be that that's where Russia is trying to get to if it weren't getting the resistance it was meeting on the eastern front of the Ukraine. Folks, until then, have a great rest of your day and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.